We'll begin the news at this hour with some cheery news in Nigeria, where the parents of the abducted Kuriga school children at the Chinko local government area of Kaduna State have finally been reunited with their children several days after being handed over to this Kaduna State government. The children, who were rescued from northern Zamfara State by the Nigerian army and brought back to Kaduna State on Sunday, were officially handed over to the governor on Monday. Surprisingly, the parents of the kidnapped school children were not present during the ceremony, which sparked a lot of controversy.
Allah ne dora mana wata kaddara mutane da ba irin namu ba sau kwashe mu sa kai mu cikin daji. Allah kuma ya ba mu mafita muka fito. An karbe mu hannu biyu, an taimaka mana, an ba marasu lafiya magani waɗanda jikinsu bai masu daɗi ba, an taimake mu matuƙa, mun ji daɗi gaskiya. Muna godiya ga baya goya marayu, Allah ya ƙara ɗaukaka. Muna godiya ga gwamna, Allah ya ƙara ɗaukaka, Allah ya ƙara taimakawa. Zuwa nan ya ƙara man ƙwarin gwiwa akan cewa iman Allah da sai na yi karatu matuƙa. Allah ya so ya.
Sunana Aisha Muhammad. Muna godiya ga gwamnati da uwan marayu da suka taimaka mana. Allah ya sa muka ga iyayenmu lafiya, su ma suka ga mu lafiya. Muna fata Allah ya ƙara ɗaukaka su. Mu ma Allah ya ba mu fatan da muke buri a rayuwarmu.
Ba mu san a Kaduna ma an ɗauke mu wani abu kusa da zo wajen gwamna da sakataren gwamna. Ubangiji Allah, muna roƙonka. Allah ka saka mu wa'annan mutane. Kuma ya Allah ina roƙonka, a nan mu dai a nan ba ma nan Kuriga ba, jihar Kaduna ma gaba daya, muna fata wannan shine ɗaukar ɗalibai a kai su wani wuri ne. Allah ubangiji Allah ka sa wannan.
Na farko ne ina miƙa godiya ga Allah subhanahu wataala ya kawo mu rana irin teku. Alhamdulillah, daga lokacin da Aminu Jibrin Gwadabe ya tura mu sarkin Kuriga sako ta voicemail cewa ɗaliban nan an karɓo su sun kusan shigowa garin Kaduna. Mun fita muna tare da sarkin Kuriga, mun fita waje mun gaya mu iyaye da yan wada abokan arziki. Daga lokacin irin iyaye aka dinga fitowa ana ganin kamar ma an gasa, wanda kuma murnin ya dinga ci gaba da kuma gudunmawar da mai girma gwamnati ya kai na palliatives. Ana ganin an kawo wannan kaya, ana ce kuma ga labarin da iso muna da cewa yaran nan sun iso. To alhamdulillah, gaskiya ba za mu manta ba, ko ba za mu ci muna miƙa godiya mu ba, sai mu miƙa godiya ga mai girma shugaban kasa Asuwaju Ahmad Tinubu, da kuma mai girma gwamnatin jihar Kaduna, da shugaban sojojin Najeriya CJ Musa, da kuma mai ba shugaban kasa shawara akan harkar tsaro watan Nuhu Ribadu. Wa'inda sun yi bakin yin su, kuma Allah kare mana su alhamdulillah, saboda ba dan koi ba, saboda ba a taɓa ɗaukan yara tun da aka fara na Chibok, na Yawuri, na Kagara, na ina ne, duk ba wanda aka yi wanda zai yara suka dawo cikin kwana 16 ko 15 irin na Kuriga.
Heartfelt gratitude there from the parents and the children at Chinko community. Now, joining me live from Kaduna to speak more on this is News Central's correspondent Marvelous Obomanu. Marvelous, let's get started, right? Well done so far. You've done quite an amazing job just covering this story as it unfolds. And so far, it's almost like we have gotten to a crescendo. But tell us more about the freed school children you're reuniting with, their parents. Have they all been with their parents yet, or are there still others who are waiting to meet with their parents?
Anyway, the long wait is over, and in the last 72 hours, these parents have been so eager and excited to meet with their children. And just yesterday in the evening, the government house hosted the parents to a banquet where they were all reunited with their children and their loved ones. And from the video you saw, you could see the level of excitement that went on there. But for the fact that if all the whole children were rescued and if the parents saw their children at all, we are not privy to that information. Why? Because no media organization was allowed to cover that particular video you saw yesterday. In fact, it was the in-house government media that covered that event and then sent it to the government house press platform where we all saw the video. We were even shocked that such a thing happened, and then no media organization was invited to cover the event. So it was a bit secluded event. So we don't know if actually the parents were able to see all their children and all. So we're not there to feel that excitement. What we saw was just the video.
So it begs to ask the question if there is any protest by parents who are yet to see their children, because we understand that the number that been released is not the same number that was abducted. What happens to parents now who are yet to even see their children to start with, or who don't even know if their children were part of those that were rescued?
It may interest you that that figure is still being contested up till now, whether the actual figure that was abducted, 287 versus what the military is saying that is 137. So we do not know what the actual figures are, because in fact, right from the day this story began, from the community, what the community are saying, it was 287. The village head, the teachers, in fact, they all went around the community, did a head count, and came up with that number, 287. In fact, when the governor visited during the evening of that said day, he was told it was 287. And his statement as of Sunday in the morning was 287 until the military gave a different number that was what was rescued. So we wouldn't know actually if it was 287 or if it's 137. Till we plan to visit the community, we'll get to know firsthand from the community members what the actual figures are. Just like I told you, the event was secluded. We weren't allowed, to enter to know if all the parents that were on ground actually saw their children or not. What will be, investigating this case, we'll go to the community to really find out what the numbers are, and if all the parents that came actually saw their children, because for some time they've not allowed us to have access to the children, not their parents. But when we get to the community, we'll have updates on these questions, and then we can inform our public properly.
Marvelous, thank you so much for coming on. I will definitely continue with you on that one. Thank you. And now we'll move away from Marvelous now to discuss more on kidnappings and banditry in Nigeria. We're being joined by the Executive Director, Network of Civil Society in Borno State, and that's Bulama Abisu.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on. Now, beyond the immediate violence, what do you see as the underlying causes or contributing factors of banditry and kidnapping in Nigeria?
Thank you very much once again. I want to believe that this situation is very dicey, and let me congratulate the parents that were able to get their wards back. And the underlying factor is multifaceted, I can say. One, the economic aspect of the country is also another angle, where you can see a parent or any person cannot be able to actually provide for its own home. Secondly, the issue of trust is also another issue that actually degenerated into a lot of serious issues, where a small thing between one community and other, or between one religion and other, will degenerate into violence such that you cannot be able to even control. Thirdly, you can see suspicion between the ethnic groups in the country, where even at the larger angle of our political divide, you will see a group that went to this city or state that were rejected and that were asked to not to, this is not your own land, and what have you. So these are some of the compounding issues that need to actually look at beyond the kinetic, beyond the aggressive security issues that we are facing.
Now, we understand that the security forces, to an extent, have struggled to contain these groups. What specific reforms, in terms of, that is necessary to improve their effectiveness and accountability? What are some reforms do you think you would prefer in terms of solutions to up their game in tackling banditry and insecurity?
Yeah, one major issue is a quick review of what are they doing. Though they may not be able to be open for the public to discuss it, but they will have the confidence of bringing experts to see what exactly are the securities doing on ground. Is it actually bringing in any good results, or where does it need for any review in that respect? First, you must find out within the security forces to see that. Secondly, we all talk technology everywhere. Now I am talking to you based on the technology, and you can find exactly, even if you want, where am I speaking with you? So therefore, I think we are missing something from the use of our technology on ground. Why can't we use this technology very much such that a single call will be enough for us to detect where and how these people are doing it? Thirdly, we need to actually get a robust community engagement. These people are not coming from the thin air. They are going somewhere. A huge number of human beings, a huge number of cattle sometimes, 100, 200 people will be moved from one place to another. And for the period of even a year, one cannot be able to find out. I think we need to reverse that. We need to look at this and check out. Probably the community are not also given back, maybe because the securities are not actually given them open space for them to do that. So we need to actually look at our community engagement, sit down with the communities, and then discuss very well in this regard. So I believe if we can be able to look at the technology angle of it, look at the community engagement, so that communities can be able to give information, accurate and information, I think we can make a lot of positive move in that regard.
I mean, a lot can be said about community contributing when it comes to intelligence and helping security agencies. There's a factor of fear, there's a factor of trust there. But let's take a look at young people as well. We understand that many perpetrators of this crime are also young people with limited opportunities. What role can civil society play in creating alternative livelihoods and reducing the appeal of banditry?
Yeah, I think this is a very, very good question. We all know the issue of young employment in the country has reached a peak where the government alone cannot be able to contain the situation. This is only talking about those who are even employable. Then there are those who have not gotten the prerequisite for them to be employed, are all also roaming about in the street. So there is the need, a strong collaboration between the government, CSOs, and private sectors. The CSOs are trying their best, but in most cases, very, very limited. Where we are now is issue of peace building is there, where CSOs have actually gone into communities, pick youths, and then align them to be ambassadors of peace in their own community. But how many of them can a CSO take? So there is the need, the government, the international community to come in. These fine ideas should be looked into. There are a lot of fine ideas by the CSOs. Maybe an international workshop on this can be called by the government to tap into this, and then how will they going to sponsor some of these programs to go down in that regard. So I think engaging the youth positively is one key aspect where we can be able to bring sanity to our community and also reduce these youths from joining these bad groups in the community. So I believe the CSOs have a lot to offer, and if the opportunity is given, if supports are given, if resources are pooled, we can be able to actually reduce in great numbers the issue of unemployment in the country so that youth can be productive in their activities.
I mean, we saw a video circulating on social media where an alleged bandit or kidnapper, we don't know his identity for sure, was lying down on bundles of Naira notes, and it was just bizarre to see that, and that really will transmit or just transfer some sort of negative connotation to somebody who is also leaning towards that. But away from CSO, cooperation and and a collective initiative in tackling this and engaging the youths positively, do you think there's a role for international cooperation with countries that are bordering around Nigeria and addressing this? Say, for example, Niger and every other country that we share a border with, and we see that many of these routes are used when it comes to proliferation of small arms.
Yes, I think you are right in this direction. There is the need for us to scrutinize the policies that are on ground first, and then look at areas of collaboration. then look at areas. There are a lot of suspicion in some of the activities of even international organizations, international, even the countries themselves. We need to actually sit down and scrutinize all our policies in that regard. Then sit down and then seek for cooperation. We should not undermine any country that is bothering us, whether big, small, whether they have the economic capacity or not. We sit down and then discuss fully. These are issues, when left, it can spread to everywhere. So therefore, there is the need for cooperation between all our communities, then also reaching out to the international communities for best practices within these communities. We will not undermine our communities. If they are peaceful within their own community, what makes them to remain peaceful? There is the need for us to go and see. We have seen other countries coming to us for lesson learning, and they come and learn and then go. I have not actually yet to see us going out to learn lessons from other countries. Are we saying that we are giant of Africa? We cannot actually go out and get any support from somewhere and what have you. So I want to believe through this cooperation, through this pair learning, we can be able to exchange ideas and see, and then pick the one that will be very much good for us. The issue of our borders are also another angle to it. We cannot be able to fend the whole of the borders. So therefore, cooperation is the only thing that can bring about, bring us to a table where we can be able to discuss and find solutions to these issues on the ground.
Ulama Abisu there talking to me about the issue of banditry and kidnapping in Nigeria, as well as insecurity and the way forward. Many thanks for coming on. We appreciate you for doing this with us.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure talking to you.
We'll take a short break at this point. When we come back on the other side, we'll continue with more. This is News Now on News Central TV. Don't go anywhere. We'll continue news now in Delta State, the south of Nigeria, where 2 weeks ago, 17 soldiers were killed in an ambush in Okuama community. Now, the hunt for the masterminds has not ceased. Residents of Orere, one of the communities raided by the military personnel, have raised alarm over alleged torture and harassment by soldiers. News Central's Austin Azu brings details.
A visit to Orere, one of the affected communities, reportedly to have been raided by the military. Residents frown at the manner the military carried out their operations. Pretty fate could have been without the extreme embarrassment and torture it brought. Some residents of Orere, a predominantly farming community, narrated their experience when the soldiers came calling.
From then, I moved direct with them to the community town hall. When we got there, they used all the whole men sit down for ground. Many of them, they marched there for back, say they be criminal, that they kill their people for the riverside.
So you just waking up from your bed, the next thing you see are more than 200 military men with guns and ammunition everywhere. This community already is not even by the river bank. So there is nothing connecting us to Okuama. Even if they are investigating what transpired in Okuama, the way and manner the Nigerian army is going about it, I think is not right. If gunboat came from the river of army yesterday, where four healers of army came from the land. So then they now hold me, beating me, they now drag me enter their boat, that I should show them the community. Then I followed them down to the community. The moment we step into the community, the entrance of the community, they now shoot. They started shooting. So they now drag everybody to the juju side to destroy the juju and went to the shrine, the community town hall to mess everybody up. They injure five to 7 people. Even me said they even injure me. Students themselves, when they want to write exam yesterday, run loss. Even Tina self, some of them said they find them. They never see them up to date.
Other victims said they are yet to see their loved ones who ran for their lives. when soldiers stormed the community with gunboats.
Everybody they run, where the children they run, never see there. My people don't go to the mama do the time, everybody never see there now.
Meanwhile, the Director of Media Operations of the Defense Headquarters, Major General Edward Buba, in a statement, said soldiers are combing some communities in Delta and Bayelsa states in search of wanted suspects who are on the run, and to recover weapons and arrest the perpetrator of the killers of 17 soldiers in the area. In Orere community, Delta State, for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
In the meantime, Nigeria's president has approved scholarship up to university level for all children of the 17 soldiers killed in Okuama community in Delta State. Now, this was during the burial ceremony of the soldiers at the National Military Cemetery in Abuja, where the president commiserated with families of the soldiers and the military, promising to ensure that those responsible will be brought to book. Idong Joseph has this report.
The remains of the 17 soldiers who were killed on March the 14th while on a peacekeeping exercise in the Okuama community of Delta State, Nigeria's South-South region. Emotions filled the atmosphere as relatives, friends and colleagues, including senior government officials and Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu, gathered at the National Military Cemetery in Abuja to pay their last respects.
When soldiers die in the hands of the enemies of the state, we take it as dying for what the nation has considered a just cause. But when they are gruesomely murdered by the very people they are trained, equipped, and took an oath to protect, it is highly demoralizing. We will honor your memory by continuing the fight against those who seek to undermine our peace and security. We will remain steadfast in our resolve to build a nation worthy of your sacrifice.
President Tinubu, while commending the military for not carrying out a reprisal attack on the community, announced the award of national honors to all the slain soldiers. He also ordered the payment of benefits to their families immediately.
The 4 gallant officers have been accorded the award of members of the Order of Niger, MON. The 13 courageous soldiers who also lost their lives have been awarded the Officers of the Federal Republic Medal. The military, we appeal to you to within the next 90 days to ensure that all benefits of departed are paid to their families.
It was all sorrow and tears as the military laid its slain comrades, and you can literally feel the agony in the atmosphere. President Bola Tinubu, while assuring relatives and friends of the deceased that they will get justice, promised to bring those responsible to book.
I want to make it clear once more that those who committed this heinous crime will not go unpunished.
The president urged the military not to allow the incident at Okuama discourage them from carrying out their lawful responsibilities. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
Still in Nigeria, the President Bola Tinubu has called on the U.S. government to help strengthen democracy in West African sub-region, including bilateral ties with Nigeria. Now, this was revealed by Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs following a meeting with the President and a U.S. Congressional Delegation. Amadin Uyin reports.
Nigeria, the largest economy in Africa, is regarded as a key ally of the United States of America. With Nigeria well positioned as a powerhouse on the African continent, many believe that the nation is fundamental to the U.S. objectives in Africa.
Nigeria is perhaps one of the world's greatest countries because of its size, because of its population, because of its regional importance. And of course, your president is head of ECOWAS, which is extraordinarily vital at this point when we see some of the challenges that are being faced. So it was a great meeting.
As Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu met with U.S. congressional representatives in Abuja, they said the success of Nigeria is key to stabilizing the African continent.
But in addition to that, we share values and want to strengthen democracy because we know that a strong Nigerian economy, a strong Nigerian democracy is going to influence the whole continent of Africa and the world.
The Congress, the legislature, is a separate arm of government, and in the U.S. there are a lot of issues that pertain to the fight against terrorism, sale of weapons, human rights issues that are often decided in the legislature, in the U.S. Congress, which is why it's important for Mr. President to engage with senior ranking members of the U.S. Congress.
Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs spoke to newsmen after the meeting, highlighting key areas of discussion, including expected areas of support for the nation.
President talked about a lot of things, about economic support, about the root causes of terrorism, about the root causes of coups, about the need for further strengthening democracy in West Africa and in Africa as a whole, and generally the bilateral relations we have with the U.S.
The delegation assured that Nigeria and the United States will continue to share a bond of partnership aimed at improving democracy, the rule of law, and a commitment to peace and good governance. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
And now to politics in Nigeria. Julius Abere has secured his re-election as the national chairman of the Labour Party for his second term with unanimous vote and support from delegates. The chairman of the National Convention and Deputy Governor of Abia State, Ikechukwu Emetu, announced the winner of the party's National Convention in Nnewi, Anambra State on Wednesday. Abere has been engaged in a conflict with the leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress, headed by Joe Ajore. And now we move away from that and we move now to still in Nigeria. In a bid to learn from the successful Borno model of peace building in Nigeria's northeast, a delegation from the Accra Initiative of Ghana visited the Borno State Deputy Governor in Maiduguri. Now, the Borno model of peace building led to the surrender of over 160,000 insurgents. News Center's Umaru Kirawa completes this report.
Maiduguri, the capital city of Nigeria's Borno State. Peace finally taking root, and the state is recovering from the shackles of the age-old insurgency. People now go about their day-to-day activities without fear of attack by insurgents. This is largely attributed to the Borno model, a persuasive peace-building initiative that encourages voluntary surrender by insurgents to embrace peace. The Accra Initiative delegation, comprising high-ranking officials from Ghana, are here in Borno State to study the Borno model.
It is better for us to learn, and we hope that by the time we go back, we'll be able to inculcate these steps in the methods in which we are addressing insurgency.
Good things like this need to be showcased and told for people to know that we have homegrown solutions to problems that hitherto people thought we couldn't do anything about.
Kinetic operations win the war, but only non-kinetic operations can win the peace. And this is what Borno model has showcased, how to win the peace. To win the war, the military has done that. But to win the peace, you need the political will, you need the coordination, you need the cohesive management of resources and the exploration of innovative ideas, organic to contextual communities. It has to be locally sourced, locally owned, so that the community can feel a sense of ownership and belonging. And that is what the Borno model is.
The exchange of ideas and experiences, particularly the persuasive mechanisms, is said to be crucial in helping Ghana and other African nations develop effective peace-building strategies. The Borno model of peace building has gained international recognition for its success in countering insurgency and maintaining peace in the region.
I'm so happy because the whole world, have started recognizing the approaches that the Borno State government and the federal government have been doing towards the DDR program. Everybody has his own peculiar problems, but I believe if you harness what is obtainable from each other, I think we'll find a solution to the problems that we have been facing.
The visit by the Accra Initiative Delegation to Borno State also aims to forge a strong partnership between the two West African countries and pave the way for further collaboration in combating insurgency across Africa. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umoru Kirawa.
The importance of breaking social political barriers that hinder women from achieving their purpose have been emphasized. Stakeholders say this will help women contribute better to the development of the society. News Central's Chizoba Anyowe was at an event organized by the National Association of Women Journalists to mark this year's International Women's Day in Jos, Plateau State, and now reports.
The International Women's Day was first celebrated by the United Nations in 1911 and in Nigeria in 1975. Since then, more and more women, and indeed men, have joined in the fight against any form of injustice against women.
When women are given the platform and support to break free from societal expectations, they can excel in their chosen fields and inspire others to do the same.
The theme for this year's celebration, Invest in Women, Accelerate Progress, is not only apt but timely, considering the need and importance of investing in women.
With the diverse challenges society faces today, the belief is that the greater inclusion of women in all spheres of life would help address them and enthrone a better society.
We've seen the workings, the roles, the duties of NAWATCH being aligned to our own interest. Because back at the Ministry of Women Affairs, I want to assure you our interest always is to invest in women.
The inclusion does not depend only on the men. We as women also need to include our sisters first, so that in our large numbers, we are all inspired and we have something to offer, then we can take it up from there.
In improving International Women's Day, catch them young is a phrase that must never be forgotten if the future generation would keep the flag flying.
Let's go and catch them young. Let's sell out the idea of what they can do. But we must determine, we must be convinced that we can do it.
And I believe going back to communities, the local communities where the local women are, will be a very good way for us.
We are up to the task to do whatever it is that we set our mind to do. And I hope and pray that our young women also be inspired.
The strides that have been achieved through promoting and celebrating women over the years have been quite remarkable. It lends credence to the need to sustain the efforts to keep women in the mix of socio-political issues for the betterment of the society. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Anyowe.
You're watching news now on News Central TV. Coming up, court shortens Liberian ex-rebel leader's life sentence. Find out more after the break. Stay with us. And now we'll continue in Senegal as the opposition candidate Bassirou Diomaye Faye has emerged as the winner of Sunday's election with 54.28% of the total votes. This is according to official provisional results released by the Electoral Commission on Wednesday. Presidential candidates have until the end of Thursday to file appeals challenging Faye's win, failure to which the Constitutional Council will confirm him as the president-elect. Faye's main challenger, former Prime Minister Amadou Ba of the ruling coalition, secured 35.79% of total votes. Ba, along with several of the other 15 presidential candidates, have already conceded and congratulated Faye, and it is considered unlikely that they will appeal against the results.
33%. Bassirou Diomaye Diakhar Faye. 2 434 751 voix. Amadou Ba, 1 605 086 voix, soit 35,79% de suffrages exprimés. Aliou Mamadou Dia, 125 690 000 voix, soit 2,80.
A French court has reduced the life sentence of Liberian former rebel Conte Camara to 30 years in prison for his role during Liberia's civil war 3 decades ago. At his first trial in 2022, following his arrest in France, he was found guilty of crimes against humanity and violence against civilians and given a life sentence or a life term, but appealed against the ruling. Although the Paris Criminal Court reduced his sentence on Wednesday, it again found him guilty of the wartime crimes. The prosecution had urged the court to uphold his life sentence. Camara was a regional commander of a faction of the United Liberation Movement of Liberia for Democracy, which fought the National Patriotic Front of former President Charles Taylor. The conflict between 1989 and 2003 killed more than 250,000 people. We'll move away now from there to Ghana, where economic experts in Africa have raised concerns over the rising debt crisis, which is surging at a fast pace. Now, speaking at the recent International Conference on African Debt Crisis and International Financial Architecture in Accra, Ghana, the stakeholders addressed the role of global financial bodies like the IMF in financing and debt servicing. The conference, which runs for 4 days, is organized by the International Development Economics Associates in Accra, Ghana. And News Central's Adeshawa Odushoga is in Accra, Ghana, and filed in this report.
The African continent is grappling with a huge debt crisis, which may be hindering it from adequate access to finance, financing its climate action, achieving its sustainable development goals, and improving its economic growth potential. The continent has continued to be victims of Western economic shocks with rising interest rate and a devalued local currency, which is making it almost impossible to service its debt. Economic and financial experts within and outside the continent have gathered in this room, forming an international conference to discuss the African debt crisis and the international financial architecture.
When you have a problem, the IMF comes and tries to reduce the damage done. But the question is, who was the arsonist in the first place? Okay, this is a problem. You are not going to you cannot control the US in this situation. When the US chooses to raise interest rates, I mean, this current raising of interest rates, was it because of a big problem which needed interest rates to be raised? No, it was because the US Federal Reserve Bank wanted to discipline organized labor.
We need to understand as Africans that nobody owes us a living.
During the conference, a spotlight was shed on countries in the Sahel region, bounded by a common currency of the CFA franc. Conversations around how the CFA franc is keeping the countries poor and the need to exit and establish an alternative currency were brought to the fore.
We'll have to either reform the systems or transitioning out. And that's the debate we have now. And how do we ensure that the transition is smooth, not chaotic, but result into a system that deliver on expected growth dividend that people are waiting for and looking for, is the main challenge. And there's been a lot of discussion in the past, and you heard today that one aspect will be to make sure that we have enough reserve, foreign reserve, as a caution.
Or is it an impossible association?
The speakers at the event who spoke in turn highlighted what they tagged as the unwarranted role of the global financial bodies like the IMF in debt restructuring for African countries and how it is designed to keep the continent indebted with a rising interest rate.
We've got to figure out a way of insulating our own currencies from dependence on the US dollar, which is something that I think the new Senegalese president, for example, is trying to sort of think about. So this I see as a way, as kind of solutions way forward.
As part of the numerous resolutions, speakers here are urging African leaders to exploit their respective natural resources as a source for foreign reserves, form a continent-based financial body, and a common currency that reflects its macroeconomics, amongst others. In Accra, Ghana, for News Central, Adeshawa Odushoga.
You're watching news now. We move on now to Kenya, where the interior minister of the country says a site where hundreds of bodies were discovered buried in shallow mass graves in April 2023 will now be a site of remembrance, as well as the final resting place for some of the victims of what has been dubbed the Shakahulu Forest Massacre. The minister called it one of the worst tragedies in Kenyan soil. Self-proclaimed pastor Paul Ntinga Mackenzie is alleged to have incited his followers to starve to death to meet Jesus.
One of the worst tragedies to ever occur on the soil of our country occurred in this county. Just north of Malindi, at a place called Shakahola, we lost so many people, brothers and sisters who met their death in the hands of a criminal organization purporting to be an organization of faith. As you're aware, the experts who have been helping us to identify our departed brothers and sisters have made some progress in terms of profiling the 429 bodies that have been lying at the hospital in Malindi. And we've started releasing bodies. 4 were released yesterday.
And on to U.S., the bodies of 2 construction workers have been found in the cold waters of Baltimore Harbor, trapped in their red pickup truck after a giant cargo ship slammed into the bridge they had been feeling potholes on, causing a thunderous collapse. Maryland police announced the grim discovery of a press conference, I beg your pardon, adding that sonar shows what they believe are more vehicles trapped within the concrete and twisted steel debris of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Now, 6 of the 8-man construction crew are believed to have been killed, with 4 bodies yet to be found.
Shortly before 10 a.m., divers located a red pickup truck submerged in approximately 25 feet of water in the area of the middle span of the bridge. Divers recovered two victims of this tragedy trapped within the vehicle. The victims were identified as Alejandro Hernandez Fuentes, 35 years old, of Baltimore, and Dorlian Ranial Castillo Cabrera, 26 years old, of Dundalk.
Nigeria Football Federation (NFF) has endorsed the election that ushered in the popular club administrator Gafar Liamid as the new chairman of Lagos State Football Association. Now, this was stated in a letter sent by the NFF on Wednesday to formally acknowledge and approve the impeachment of Fawood Oki as the agency's chairman. The NFF's recognition of Haj Gafar was antithetical to Oki's boast to contest his removal during extraordinary emergency congress of the LSFA. Now, signed by the acting Secretary General of the nation's football governing body, Ademola Olajire, the letter affirmed that the Oki's removal was in line with the extent of status and noted the emergence of Gafar as LSFA's new chairman. The NFF, however, gave a directive to the executive committee of the LSFA to urgently conduct an election to usher in a new vice chairman at a later date. And on to boxing, where Anthony Joshua's promoter, Andy Hearn, has slammed Francis Ngannou for appearing to suggest that his demolishing defeat by Joshua was down to his early arrival at the arena. Now, Joshua knocked down the former UFC heavyweight champion 3 times in the 2 rounds to secure a dominant win in Saudi Arabia. But Francis, in a recent interview on the MMA Hour, said that he arrived at the Kingdom Arena in Riyadh 2 hours earlier than Joshua, appearing to suggest that this was a trick to tire him out. Now, Joshua's promoter, I beg your pardon, has taken exception with the comments suggesting the 37-year-old should know better.
What a shot! Straight right hand! Down the pipe of Ngannou. He's hurt. Let's see if AJ jumps right on him.
He got too confident and paid the price.
What a stunner!
And that's all we can take at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Freed Kuriga school children have reunited with their parents. Faye has been officially declared winner of Senegal's presidential election. We also told you that Kenya's government to bury unclaimed remains of cult massacre victims. Now remember that you can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. And do make sure to follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can also watch News Central's live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith, Atibi.